Hello everyone, welcome to my other video. So today I'll be talking about Redux Saga and using it inside your React project. So basically you have to first know what is Redux Saga. So Redux Saga is a library that aims to make application side effects easier to manage, and it is more efficient to execute and also simpler to test. So, if you were working on some project on React Redux, you were probably using Redux Thunk for asynchronous work. So, Redux Thunk is the standard way to perform asynchronous operation on Redux. It also introduces the concept of Thunk. So, here we are going to use Redux Saga. So, let's understand Redux Saga more clearly. So, look into this diagram. So, you can see one node view is there. So basically it is the starting node of this flow, and here view is nothing but your React component or from where you are going to dispatch some actions. So you have to dispatch some action by calling some event listener like on click on change. So after dispatching the action, the flow goes to the middleware section, and this middleware is nothing but your Redux Saga. So inside this middleware, you have to just call all the Ajax or HTTP request. And when the flow comes inside this node, the middleware also informs the reducer that the request has already been sent to the API. And when the response comes into the middleware, it again send the response to the reducer to update the state that the request is finished. And finally reducer update all the state inside the store. So this is the full flow of Redux Saga. Now let's start to implement it inside your React project. So basically you can see that I have already created one React project using create React app, and all I need to do right now, I need to just install the some third-party libraries to use Redux Saga inside my React project. So for this I had to write npm space install space redux react redux and redux saga and press enter. It will basically all install all the dependency of these three libraries inside your React project. Okay, so after completion, you have to just write code space dot to open VS Code. Now go inside this app.js file and first delete everything from here because I'm going to use one classful component here. So I'm just typing RC to use the snippet uh, for using classful component. So basically what I'm going to build here is nothing but there will be one button to fetch some list of users from one fake API because I don't have any backend for to test right now. So here I'll need one button. So for this I have to write button, and inside it I'm just simply writing fetch, and the class name will be btn primary, and on click I will call this dot fetch data, and I will need one constructor to bind these things, and also I need to define this fetch data method. So inside the constructor, at first I have to bind this using this dot fetch data equals to this dot fetch data dot bind this. There will be also one div to just print all the user details here, and here I have to pass the profs from the state, and I will come to this section later in this video. So basically what I have to do right now, we have to set up the whole Redux state. So for that I have to first go inside this index.js file. So inside this index.js file, you have to first import provider from React Redux, and then you have to wrap the app component using this provider, and also need to pass one profs that is store, and you need to create this store. So inside this SSA directory I'm going to create one file that will export the store, and I will import it here. So write store.js. So inside this store.js file, you have to first import create store and apply middleware from Redux, and then uh, you need to import create Saga middleware from Redux Saga, and here you need to write one you have to create one instance of create Saga middleware. So write const Saga middleware equals to create Saga middleware and the braces, and finally write const store equals to create store and pass root reducer and apply middleware and pass Saga middleware here. And finally write saga middleware dot run and pass root saga into it. And finally export it as default. So write export default store. Alright, so here if you just notice one thing that I have used here root reducer and root saga, and those files are actually not available right now. I will make this file later. So switch to index.js again and import the store from dot slash store as it is inside the same directory, and just keep the store inside or pass the store inside this provider. So right now I need to configure the whole Redux and Redux Saga. So for that, just make one folder and just follow all the steps. So inside this Redux folder, create one file named types.js, and here I'm going to declare all the action types. So just write const types and declare some variables there, some constant variables like send request success, and also the send request failure. Okay, so right now I need one actions file to write all the actions or define all the actions so that I can dispatch. So inside this action.js file, I have to first import the types from dot slash types. And here I have to define the function for fetching the data. Uh, and it will be basically one action. So write export function fetch data and it will return. Okay, I have made one mistake here. I have to export it. Okay, so from return the type and the payload. So the type will be types dot send request, and the payload will be data that I will send from my React component. And again I will need two other method. One is for failure and one is for success. So at first write export const fetch data success, and here just write uh, I mean just get the user details as user and return the type as types dot send request success and payload as user. And okay, so finally if to write the action for fetch data failure, and it will receive the error and return the type as types dot send request failure, and the payload will be one blank object and the error will be the error that I'm getting. So I have created the actions. Now I need to create a reducer. So for that, just create one folder inside Redux named reducer, and at first I'm going to create one file named root reducers, and inside that root reducer.js file you need to first import combine reducer from Redux, and then write const root reducer equals to combine reducer, and as object you need to pass some reducer. So for that you need to create one reducer. So I'm getting one reducer named fetch data reducer, and here I have to import that fetch data reducer, and I will configure this fetch data reducer later in this video, and just write inside this combined reducer and finally export that root reducer as default. So write export default root reducer. Okay, so now I need to configure this fetch data reducer. So for this, open your file and import again the types from dot slash, sorry, it is one up. So write dot dot slash types And then to declare the initial state, so I'm writing const initial state and loading as false, user as blank object, and also the error as blank object. And finally, I had to define this fetch data reducer. So for that, it will
State
take
and
or initialize the
action.
state as initial state, and it will take the action. And inside it, I'm going to make a switch case. And here, in case it gets the action as send request, it will basically return the state and also the loading as true. And in case it gets the action as sent request success, it will return again the state with the uh, loading false, and also the user as uh, action.payload, and the error as blank object. And again, if it gets the action request as sent underscore request underscore failure, it will again return the state with the loading false and user as blank object, and error as action dot error. Okay, so at the bottom of this file, you need to just export this reducer as default. So write export default face data reducer. So now I'm going to import that root reducer inside store.js file, because if you can remember, I have used this root reducer but haven't imported it from this root reducer. So import that. Okay, now all I need to do right now is I need to create some saga so that I can import the root saga inside the store.js file. So create one directory named sagas, and inside it just create one file named react sagas.js, and again I will need another file named fetch data saga.js. And first go inside this root saga.js, and here need to import some methods from Redux Saga FX. So write import uh, take and call and all from Redux Saga FX. Remember you to import it from Redux Saga FX. So write that, and then write simply import, and you need to import this fetch data saga from here. So inside this curly braces, just write this fetch data saga, and here I'm going to declare or define this fetch data saga after completing this file. So just write export default, give one generator function. So write function star, or give one asterisk there, and write root saga, and inside this function just write yield and write all, and it will basically take one array as a list of functions. So write this method that you have imported uh, from fetch data saga. So write fetch data saga and give the braces. Now come to this fetch data saga.js file. Okay, so inside this fetch data saga file, you need to first import take every from Redux Saga FX, and then simply write export function and write fetch data saga, or you can just for better understanding you can write watch fetch data saga, because it will basically watch all the actions. And inside these fetch data sagas, just import the types and write yield take every, and whenever it will watch the action as send request, it will call this async fetch request. And here you need to declare this async fetch request. So async fetch request is nothing but a function. So declare that, and again it will be one generator function. So here I'm going to use one type catch block to get the response. So write try, and inside it simply write const response equals to yield call, and make sure that you have already imported it from this Redux Saga fx. Simply write here yield call, and inside it you can do some fetch operation or HTTP operation. So here I'm going to use Axios for that, but I don't have Axios installed in my project. So for that I have to install it using npm space install space Axios, and then I have to import it inside this file to use it. So write Axios and then pass the URL. The first parameter will be the URL. So I'm showing you the fake API path that I'm going to use, that is regress.in, and here they have given some endpoints. So I'm going to use these endpoints that will give some result for a particular user, sending the ID of the user. You can see also the response, it will give as 200 status code OK. And for before starting to use, I'm going to uh, define the URL inside my uh, const URL, and I have to just concat it with the ID. And remember, from the front end I'm going to send one ID, so concat that ID with this URL as query params, and finally just pass this URL inside Axios. And you don't need to pass the body because it will be one get request, and for that into slide dot get, and you don't need the second parameter. And I will basically log whatever response I will get from here, and then I will update the state and show it inside my component. And here I have to define that catch block also to get the error, and inside the catch block I'm just showing it using console log. Okay, now save it. All you have to do is go to your app.js file and call the action that you have defined. So go inside app.js file. So inside this app.js file, you need to first import connect from React Redux, and basically I will need this connect because I'm going to connect map state to props and map dispatch to props. So write export default connect map state to props and map dispatch to props, and also export the app component from here. Now we need to define this map state to props, and basically it will take the state and return the user. It will be state dot your reducer name. The reducer you have used is fetch data reducer, so write that fetch data reducer dot user, and the error will be state dot fetch data reducer dot error. Okay, and then you need to define map state uh, sorry map dispatch to props, and again you need to dispatch from here. So write fetch data, and need to import it from the action files. So in action you can see that we have already defined one action to fetch the data, so we need to import it from that file. So write import fetch data from dot slash redux slash actions, and inside this map dispatch to props need to just pass the id, and on click on this button, need to call this dot browse dot fetch data and pass the id as 2. And if you go inside your browser, and you can see one error, root saga is not defined. So okay, so I have made one error here. I have to import root saga also inside my store.js file. I forgot to import it. Again, I'm getting one other error. It is inside this fetch data saga. So let me check where I'm getting the error. Okay, so I think here will be one generator function, because Saga always use generator functions. So again, I'm getting the error inside my types file or action types file. So go inside action types file. So here it will be colon not equals to, and then I have to fix these things that w is not defined. And if you go inside, so here I have to remove that. Okay, so finally the error is showing that fetch data reducer is not returned during initialization. So to fix it, you have to go inside this fetch data reducer, and as default case you need to return the state actually. So write return state and save it. And again, I had to configure one other thing that I forgot to mention, that I am using on click fetch data function. That is the same name as the action type that I am using. So I had to change one method name for that. So for quick solution, I'm going to change this component method. So I'm changing it to handle fetch data, and also I have to change it inside the browser, inside the constructor where I have bind the method, and also on the on click event. So here you can see now it is showing me the correct result, or you can see that one button is there. And you need to first open your developer console, and I'm clearing the console. And if I just click on this page button, and here you can see, so I'm getting the data from my endpoint or API. So just see the id is 2. The endpoint has given me the email, first name, last name, and everything. Okay, so now to show it inside my React component, all I need to do is I need to update the state. So for that, I need to go inside this fetch data saga and write yield put, and then inside that put you need to define that action, and also you need to import it from Redux Saga FX. So inside the put, you need to call that success action. So for that, just write import, write import. If I visit this actions.js file, I have named it as fetch data success. So just paste it there from dot slash actions. Okay, so just pass it here, and the put is basically taking the action that I'm calling after getting the successful response, and also passing the response. Again, if I call, you can see I'm getting it using getting it inside the data object. So basically I will just send this email or the first name. So for that, just pass response dot data, dot data dot first name. So write response dot data, and let me check again. Okay. Okay, so write response dot data dot first name. Okay, now save it, and okay. Now here you can see. Okay, now go inside your app.js file, and you are getting the state value inside your props uh, from this map state to props, and all I need to do is to write this dot state dot this dot props dot user. And here you can see, if I click on this fetch button, you can see the first name is showing correctly. Now I'm going through the whole process very quickly, what I have done throughout this project. So at first go inside store.js. So here I have created one store, and also I have created one Saga middleware that will run the root Saga. Now come to this index.js file. So basically I have imported that store and passed it to the provider and wrapped the app component inside the provider. Now come to this app.js file. So here basically I have created one button, and on click on this button I'm calling this handle face data. Handle face data is basically calling this dot props dot face data and passing the id as 2, and where from where I'm getting this fetch data, I'm getting the fetch data from the props. So here you can see that I have already uh, uh, connected using this map dispatch to props, and here you can see it is basically one action face data action that I have imported it from the action file. So whenever it is calling this dot props dot face data, it is directly going inside my action.js file. So here you can see that in data I'm receiving it as id, so and it is returning the type as types.send request and the payload as data, and here the payload is id. And also you can see I have already defined two other actions for getting the success, and if in case any failure happens. So now you have to go inside. So after the actions, where the flow goes inside the sagas or middlewares. So just open root sagas.js file. So inside this root sagas.js file, I have written yield all watch fetch data saga. So basically here I have already declared this function, and basically I'm just importing it from this fetch data saga file, and I have to import all from Redux Saga fx, and basically it will watch all the sagas that you want to run. And here you can list down multiple sagas or use multiple sagas because it accepts the sagas as array. Now if you go inside face data saga, and at the bottom you can see that I have defined that what's face data saga method, and again it is a generator function, and inside it I'm calling this yield take every, so that every request comes and see for this action type, that is send request, and call this function, that is async fetch request. So whenever this async fetch request comes, I'm getting the id from this action. So I'm just calling some http request and updating the state by calling this fetch data success action and passing the response from here. Now come to the reducer. So I'm calling this fetch data success. So if you just come to the reducer, come to root reducer. So here I have used combine reducer. Combine reducer is nothing but list of or collection of reducers, and if you go inside this fetch data reducer, you can see that whenever the success type comes inside this reducer, it will basically update the state and make the loading as false, and also set the user that it is getting from the payload, from the action.payload. So that's it. I think this video has helped you to understand what is Redux or how Redux Saga works in React application. So thank you for watching this video. Please click on the subscribe and like button if you like this video. Thank you.